session now. I want to welcome everybody here today who is joining us in this amazing event to hear from our friends, our family in India. My name is Reva Joshi, and I am a board member with the Mahatma Gandhi Canadian Foundation and also with IGINP Canada, and along with my dear newly adopted brother, Anuj. We will be the co-hosts for the event today. I want to begin by doing something that we do here in Canada, which is called a land acknowledgement. In these days when we are all uh, participating from all over the world, it's still important to recognize who we are, where we are, and who has made it possible for us to be in the places that we inhabit. I am speaking to you today from what is called Treaty 6 territory in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It is the traditional home of the Cree, the Métis, the Dene, the Saulteaux, and many other Indigenous peoples who have for centuries made this place a home and a welcoming place for others. We acknowledge all of the ancestors who have made it possible for us to be here. And we give great thanks for the continued stewardship that they give to this land so that we can continue to be here. I want to just say a couple of words and then I'm going to pass it on to Anuj. I wanted to, as I said, just sort of, first of all, say thank you and welcome to everybody who has already been participating in this project. Some might say, why are there so many Gandhian organizations involved? And I think it's because Gandhiji taught us that the essence of ahimsa is finding the connection among all beings. And in that spirit, I wanted to share with you a very short poem that I wrote a few years ago. I just call it We. We, a presumption of collectivity, a need for solidarity, a sense of community, a search for shared humanity. So it's to further those goals that are in that poem: collectivity, solidarity, community, and shared humanity, that the four major Gandhian organizations in Canada, the Gandhi Peace Council, the Gandhi Peace Festival, the Mahatma Gandhi Canadian Foundation, and IGINP Canada, have partnered with two other wonderful organizations, which are Gandhian in spirit, if not in name: Facilitators for Social Change and Dharma in Motion. We have, for the past 3 weeks, been working on this campaign, not to bring charity to India, but to express our solidarity with our family, our friends who are there, who are working on the front lines, and who are doing everything that they possibly can to both prevent COVID from spreading further and to give relief to those who are suffering. So I want to just tell you what today's program will be shortly, and then I will turn it over to Anuj. So in a second, Anuj will take this on and he'll tell you what he's going to be doing. We will then follow that with a very short video that our dear friend Janmajay has done, and I want to give all thanks to Janmajay, who has spent who's been awake all night, basically, finishing off this video so that we could use it. He's an amazing part of our Jai Jagat family. Following the video, Rajgopal Rajaji will speak, and following that, our dear Shraddha Van will take over for a little while and facilitate a bit of a conversation with a number of people who are working on the front lines so that we can hear directly from them. And then following that, our most wonderful Jill will speak just for a few minutes. And then we're going to have a little bit of a break for some more music, which Janmajay has curated for us. Following that, we'd like to have about a half an hour or so available for questions. So we've already got one. Thank you so much from for that question from our Swiss friends. But others of you, if you could put into the chat the questions that you have, then we will make sure that Anuja and I to share those with others. And we'll have some responses to those questions. If we have the time, there's a few other folks that may speak towards the end. And then we'll just conclude by what will be 1:30 Eastern in Canada, or 1:30 Eastern time, basically. So that's the run of the day. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Anuj Bhai.
Beautiful. Thank you, Reven. Greetings, namaskar from Mi'kma'ki, the indigenous land of Mi'kmaq people, now known as Nova Scotia. Thanks for coming and joining us here. We all know what every one of us are going through. This event is for India, but we know the world is suffering. The news from Brazil, the news from Peru, the South Africa, now Nepal. It feels like sometimes of time of no hope, but we are fighting it. There's so many of us, among the volunteers in India and the Ekta Parishad we'll hear from, are suffering personally in their family members. Some of them have lost lives. To start with, I would just like to assemble together and ask your permission to lead us into a small 30-second silent prayer and keep all of us in our thoughts. Thank you.
नमस्कार साथियों, अब हम 30 सेकंड का मौन रखने चाहते हैं हमारे उन साथियों के लिए जिन्होंने कोविड में चुनौतियां झेली, अपनी जान दी। जय जय।
We will now watch the video that we have prepared to give you a glimpse of the situation on the ground. Thank you.
Yes. So I was requested by Jill Behan to very briefly highlight my motivation towards making this video. Amongst other things, I have been involved in working with Jai Jagat for a couple of years now, and with the Gandhian movements. So it was just a privilege for me to get to make something that could put forward the situation. The other thing is that a couple of days back, a friend of mine died. I myself have recovered from COVID, and it's just been heartbreak after heartbreak and suffering after suffering. And that motivated me to try to do something that could present a situation. And especially in the villages, it's very difficult because there's so much lack of equipment, lack of hospitals, lack of supplies. So uh, yeah, I mean, the cases that are being reported are nowhere close to what's the actual number, because it's very tough for even governments to get to these places. Uh, but luckily, the Ekta team is doing a fantastic work in the grassroots level, and I hope that this film can help showcase that. Jai Jagat.
अभी कोरोना के इस कठिन दौर पे लोगों को बहुत परेशानियों का सामना करना पड़ रहा है अभी, क्योंकि लोग गांव के लोग कहीं बाहर जा नहीं पा रहे हैं, आसपास कोई मजदूरी की व्यवस्था नहीं है। ऐसे में जीवन चलाना बहुत मुश्किल हो रहा है। बच्चों को कहीं खाना खिलाने में बहुत दिक्कतें आ रही हैं।
सर, मुझे कोई सहारा नहीं, मेरी धर्म पत्नी खत्म हो चुकी है, टूटू सो घर है, सोई टपरिया में डरी रख, खाना पीना का कोई साधन नहीं है, पूरा पड़ोस में को ने दे दो तो सर खा लिए न बैठे हैं।
और साहब पूरे गांव में इतने बूढ़े बच्चे, ऐसा घर को नहीं है कि ताम बुखार नहीं है। और प्राइवेट तो वो सरकारी तो लगे हैं बेचारे कितने अलग अलग, पर प्राइवेट डॉक्टर के जाते हैं कि वैसे डॉक्टर जाकर कोई 1000 ले तो कोई 700 कोई 800। साहब गेहूँ काट के लाए, कोई भिंड से लाओ, कोई ग्वालियर से लाओ काट के, वो भी बेच दे मणमोड़ी में कछू ना ना साहब।
हम बहुत परेशान है, नाज पानी करो तो सब बेच गाओ हम और मेहनत मजूरी कहते हैं, जब जंगल से जड़ा बूटी ले आ दे तो बानी बेच पा रही हम आई और डंडा घर रहे पुलिस लगा रही हमें डंडा, हम कितना मर जाओ तो परेशान हो गए, मोड़ी मोड़ा बुखार ताप में डरे, पैसा हाथे से सब लगा लगी तो हम लोगों ने तो मजूरी क्या है।
हम गुलाम रानी बोल रहे, हमें राशन नहीं मिले ना काट दो, अब हम परेशान हैं बज्जर के और बुखार चढ़ रहा है, सो दवा पैसा नहीं झूक रहे हैं।
हम लोग को बीमार तो हो चुका है, मतलब 2 महीना से थोड़ा सर्दी बुखार, को बड़ा बीमारी नहीं, सर्दी बुखार है।
Friends, greetings from India. I know this is a time when you are receiving many appeal, many requests for financial support because the world is fighting against COVID-19. So I'm standing in front of you with some degree of hesitation that I'm also coming to you with an appeal for financial support. But there is no option. The crisis is so big that we'll be able to reach out to more people if we can get more support. I'm speaking to you on behalf of an organization called Ekta Parishad. And Ekta Parishad is a large organization working in 10 states of India. And because of many years of experience, we are able to reach out to large number of people. And the strength of Ekta Parishad is that it has many activists in the field, many volunteers, many village level leaders, and this is also credible in front of the government, so we are able to work with the government and try to reduce the pressure on the government.
हम दीदियाँ सभी इस कोरोना महामारी में सभी दीदियाँ मिलकर हम घर घर जाकर गांव वाले लोगों को सलाह दे रहे हैं, समझा रहे हैं कि मास्क लगाओ, 2 गज दूरी रहो और घर में ही रहो और वैक्सीन लगाओ।
60 गांव 25 ग्राम पंचायतों में काम कर रहे हैं। उन ग्राम पंचायतों में जो आदिवासी बाहुल्य क्षेत्र हैं, वहाँ पर अनेक ग्रामों में लोग बीमार पड़े हुए हैं, किसी को बुखार है, किसी को खांसी है, किसी को सर्दी है। वहाँ पर वर्तमान में प्राथमिक सर्रा स्वास्थ्य केंद्र में कोविड सेंटर स्थापित करवाया है, जो शुक्रवार और सोमवार को वहाँ पर डॉक्टर आकर के बैठते हैं। शासन ने हमारी बात सुनी और लोगों के हित के लिए वहाँ पर कोविड सेंटर इंजेक्शन लगाने का कार्यालय बनाया गया है।
We are also trying to create a community response to COVID-19 because there is too much pressure on the state. So it is important that the community takes responsibility and respond to this situation rather than just sitting and waiting for somebody to come and help them. So at this point, we have divided our work into 2, long-term and short-term. The long-term will be more related to food, employment, poverty, etc. We will come to that later. But what is immediate is dealing with health, both preventive and curative.
6 फुट की दूरी रखें, बनाए रखें, किसी भी बीमारी के लक्षणों में सतर्कता बरतें, हाथ साफ रखें, सैनिटाइजर का उपयोग करें।
जैसे किसी को हो भी गई तो एक दूसरे को परिवार में ना हो पाए, इसलिए परिवार से भी दूरी बना के रखें।
Look, we need large number, mask in large number, sanitizer, oximeter, life-saving medicines, Ayurveda drinks to deal with cough and cold, ambulances because people are to be transported from rural areas to the hospitals, oxygen cylinder, bed sheets in isolation wards, water supplies to villages because people should not assemble in one point, etc., etc. It's a long list of activities that we need to undertake in a large area in India. So, in order to do that, we need your support, and the more support we receive, we will be able to reach out to more people. So, let me thank you in advance for your support, for your concern, and we will get back to you as soon as we are able to deal with this crisis so that we can plan together for our next phase of action. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jinmajay. We'll turn the program over now to Rajaji.
Thank you very much, Reva Ben. So first of all, let me thank Janamjay. He just recovered from COVID, and he spent all his time to make this film. And thank you very much, Janamjay, for doing that. This is the time for you to recover and rest. So please do that. I'm also thankful to Gary for joining us today to translate. See, in our programs, we have a prayer. In our training programs, we have a prayer, the 4 lines, which says, Nattoham kame rajyam, na sorgam na punarbhavam, kame dukkataptanam praninam artinashanam. It's a Sanskrit prayer. It says, God Almighty, I am not asking for kingdom. I am not asking for heaven. I am not even asking for to be reborn, rebirth. But what I am asking is strength to care for the suffering people. That's the spirit in which Ekta Parishad is working now, that give us strength that so that we will be able to help the suffering people because there are too many. The difference between what happened in 2020 and 21, the first phase and second phase is that the last time it was mainly in the cities. And as you know, cities have at least some hospitals and some possibilities. Now this is spreading into villages, and that is a place where resources are very limited. Infrastructure is also very limited. So it's a more demanding and challenging time than what was it 1 year back. You can understand what Ekta Parishad is facing today, that we are under pressure from government and also from the people. Because for government officials to reach out to people, they need our support. So in every vehicle, there should be some volunteers to take them to the villages. At the same time, people are expecting us to be close to them because it is their organization and they need us. So it's a huge pressure on Ekta Parishad and Ekta Parishad workers. On one side, we want to help the government and medical services. On the other side, we need to be with the people on a day-to-day basis because they need us. As you know, probably India has some 670 districts, and we have started working only in 72 districts. I mean, there are many other organizations, and Ekta Parishad and its sister organizations together are into 72 districts at the moment. We are using the resources that are available. I mean, whatever savings we had, we are using it up. So in order to scale up our activity, in order to expand our activity, we need more support. The more support we get, the greater the number of villages we will be able to cover. So at this point, I want to thank all of you, all of our friends and well-wishers who have contributed generously. I'm told that the collection has already gone to $40,000 or above. I want to thank all of you for contributing and strengthening this process. And I want to specially thank IGINP, Canada, International Gandhian Institute for Nonviolence and Peace, Canada, Mahatma Gandhi Canadian Foundation for World Peace, Edmonton, India-Canada Society, Hamilton, Mahatma Gandhi Peace Council, and facilitators for social change, and also Dharma in Motion. So I want to thank every one of you, because it is because of your efforts that we are able to continue to do our work in the field. We don't have to worry about resources because we are working for it. So I want to thank every one of you. Now I need to pass on this to Shraddha. A word about Shraddha. Shraddha means devotion. That is her name. And she's Vice President of Ekta Parishad. And she's also the coordinator of Mahila Manch, Ekta Parishad Mahila Wing, Women's Wing. She has worked for many years in Madhya Pradesh and in very difficult conditions, in very difficult areas. And she has received many awards, including the Rural Women Prize from Geneva. And there is also a film about Shraddha that was made some 10 years back. The title of the film was Tu Zinda Hai. That means the fire is still alive. So she's an inspiration for many upcoming young leaders in this country. So now Shraddha is going to coordinate the rest of the program and invite people to speak. Shraddha, thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you, Rajaji. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to meeting. Jai Jagat. आप सबने जो समय दिए आज हमारे बीच में, हम उम्मीद कर रहे हैं एक बड़ा नेटवर्क बनेगा। इस कोरोना महामारी में आप सबका सहयोग और विश्वास से हम उन वंचित परिवार के सेहत, सुरक्षा, भय और भूख मिटाने में आप सबका सहयोग जो मिल रहा है, अभी तक जो संसाधन जो मिला है उसका हम यूटिलाइज कर रहे हैं और इसके लिए हम बहुत आभारी हैं। आप सभी जानते हैं कि कोविड-19 जो आया है पूरे देश में, इससे हम पूरा जूझ रहे हैं। भारत के संदर्भ में हम भारत के 80% गाँव में के संदर्भ में मैं देखती हूँ तो पाती हूँ कि सबसे ज्यादा महिलाएं प्रभावित हो रही हैं। इस कोविड-19 जागरूकता अभियान का काम पिछले 1 वर्ष से एकता परिषद, एकता महिला मंच द्वारा गांव-गांव में किया जा रहा है। इसी बात को हम भारत के अलग-अलग समुदाय, अलग-अलग कम्युनिटी के बीच में सोशल एक्टिविटी के माध्यम से हम उन गांव की स्थिति के बारे में हम अभी बहुत सारे काम कर रहे हैं और आने वाले दिनों में आप सबके सहयोग से करना चाहते हैं। तो मैं पुनः आप सभी का स्वागत करती हूँ, अभिनंदन करती हूँ इस कार्यक्रम में। और हम जानना चाहेंगे क्योंकि हमारे साथ बहुत सारे एक्सपीरियंस पर्सन हैं और एक्टिविस्ट हैं। हमारे बीच में शोभा तिवारी है जो मध्य प्रदेश के छत्तीसगढ़ और के बॉर्डर में बैगांव के बीच में काफी सालों से काम कर रही हैं। बैगा कम्युनिटी जो है नेशनल पार्क, रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट, वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी के से प्रभावित कम्युनिटी है, जिनके बीच में पिछले 25 सालों से शोभा बहन काम कर रही हैं। तो मैं उनको आमंत्रित करती हूँ सबसे पहले कि वो अपने उस क्षेत्र की स्थिति के बारे में और अभी वो क्या कर रही हैं, आने वाले दिनों में क्या करना चाहती हैं कोविड 19 को लेकर। तो मैं आग्रह करती हूँ शोभा बहन से कि वो अपनी बात को कहेंगे।
श्रद्धा ट्रांसलेशन के
श्रद्धा
लिए।
बहन, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Friends, for all of you who do not understand Hindi, my name is Nabil and I'm going to try to translate what has been just said by Shraddha Behan. To start with, Shraddha Behan said that we very humbly appreciate your time and your concern for the COVID-19 crisis in India. And we hope that with your support, we'll be able to create a worldwide support group for the people who are suffering out of COVID-19 and ensure that people do not die out of hunger and that people are able to reach the services, the essential health services during these times of peril. Friends, our experience shows that women are the worst affected, and we at Ekta Parishad and Ekta Mahila Manch are trying to expand our outreach from 80 to as many as possible villages and districts so that women and children who are the worst affected may be aided in the best possible way. The money which has been contributed by all of you is being used 100% for the rehabilitation purpose, and we shall keep on updating you on the progress of how the work is going on here in India. With this, I would like to invite Shobha Behan to share her thoughts with you. Shobha Behan is working in Chhattisgarh with the Bega tribal group. So now we should hear from Shobha Behan.
सबको जय जगत। मैं बैगा जनजाति जो पिछड़ी जनजाति में आते हैं और बैगा जनजाति सुदूर अंचल बिहड़ जंगलों के बीच में निवास करते हैं। उनका जीवन पूरा ही जंगल आधारित रहा है। जब से नेशनल पार्क बना, सेंचुरी बना, तो उनको पूरी सरकार ने जंगल से हटाना शुरू कर दिया, जिसके चलते उनके हाथों से न तो जंगल उनके पास रहा, न आधुनिक समाज उनके पास है। अब सवाल उठता है कि जिनके पास जंगल नहीं है, तो स्वाभाविक है कि उनके हाथों से जंगल से संबंधित पौष्टिक आहार भी उनके हाथों से निकल, जिससे वो कुपोषित होने लगे हैं। वर्तमान में अब कुपोषण और कोरोना जैसे महामारी से कुपोषित व्यक्ति के लिए लड़ना एक बहुत बड़ी एक चुनौती है, जिससे लगता है कि गांव में लोग ज्यादा बीमार पड़ रहे हैं और उनकी हालत खराब हो जाएगी, क्योंकि जागरूकता की भी कमी है उन लोगों के अंदर में। हालांकि उन लोगों ने अपना इलाज, कोरोना का इलाज उन लोग जड़ी बूटी के माध्यम से तो कर ही रहे हैं, लेकिन हम लोग भी अभी स्वास्थ्य विभाग से मिलकर के गांव-गांव जा रहे हैं। गांव-गांव में उन लोगों को तो दवाई पहुंचाना, सलाह देना, काढ़ा के बारे में समझाना, ये काम तो कर पा रहे हैं, लेकिन ये संभव नहीं हो पा रहा है सभी गांव में पहुंच पाना, क्योंकि हम किसी के साथ जा रहे हैं तो हम हर गांव में लोगों के पास, बीमार लोगों के पास नहीं पहुंच पा रहे हैं। तो हमको लगता है कि अगर हम किसी भी अपनी संसाधन से जाते हैं, क्योंकि यहाँ से फील्ड की दूरी, गांव वालों की दूरी हॉस्पिटल से 80-90 किलोमीटर है, तो जो बीमार व्यक्ति वो हॉस्पिटल तक नहीं आ पा रहे हैं और डॉक्टर जो है वो हॉस्पिटल छोड़ के गांव तक नहीं पहुंच पा रहे हैं, तो हम कैसे बीच में एक कड़ी का काम कर सकते हैं। अभी तो उनके साथ मिल करके हम लोग कर ही रहे हैं, लेकिन हमारे पास एक गाड़ी होती ताकि हम गांव के लोगों को हम थोड़ा दवाई, कंबल, बेडशीट और अन्य राहत सामग्री उन तक पहुंचा सकते और बहुत ही सीरियस लोगों को वहां से उठा करके हम हॉस्पिटल तक लेके आ सकते, ताकि वो कोरोना जैसे महामारी से अपनी जान को बचा पाए और खुश रहें। तो मुझे इतना ही कहना था। बस जय जगत।
जय जगत। थैंक यू शोभा।
Thank you so much, Shobha Behan. Friends, please allow me to share with you what has been shared by Shobha Behan. Shobha Behan primarily works with the Bega tribal group, which is historically known to be a group that belongs to the forest. Over the year, there has been a major conflict regarding the forest and the eviction of the Begas due to the national parks establishment. So now the beggars are actually in a fix. Neither do they belong completely to the villages, and neither do they have outreach to the cities. Needless to say that in such a situation, malnutrition strikes very hard, and as you know, COVID-19 asks for very healthy bodies and nutritioned people, which is completely under siege. Uh, there's a lot of work happening at the ground level where we are being trying to educate people on the local health traditions and the Ayurveda and the local medicines. But one of the challenges that we are facing is that of outreach. In these times of COVID-19, people are not very comfortable to commute, and we need support for com commuting to village with the relief material, to get the grains, get the blankets, get the medicines to the people. So our dire need as of now is support for mobility and commuting. Thank you very much. That was what was said by Shobha Behan.
Thank you.
थैंक यू गेरी भाई। अम, हमारे बीच में जो है बिहार, जो उत्तर पूर्व भारत के उत्तर पूर्व दिशा में है, और बिहार से मंजू डुंगडुंग है, जो पिछले 25-30 सालों से मुसहर कम्युनिटी के बीच में काम कर रही हैं। मुसहर कम्युनिटी जो है समाज के सबसे निचले पायदान पर है, जो गांव के बाहर बसाहट उनकी रहती है और लैंडलेस है। इन समुदायों के बीच में लगातार मंजू बहन काम कर रही है, महिलाओं के बीच में काम कर रही हैं। तो मैं उनसे अनुरोध करती हूँ कि वो अपने बिहार के संदर्भ में अपनी बात को रखेंगे।
Friends, we should now hear from Manju Behan. Manju Behan basically comes from Bihar, which, as you see on your screen, is this part. Let me just highlight it for you for better understanding. Bihar in India is where Manju Behan is, and she basically works with the Musahar community. This is the place in India, if you see on the map, the Bihar. She works with the Musahar community. The Musahars are known to be one of the most socially excluded groups in India. And as per as livelihood, they suffer from critical loss of land and ownership over land. And Manju has been working with them for almost 25 years. So now we invite Manju to come and share her thoughts.
हेलो,
मंजू बहन, आप अपने आप को अनम्यूट कर लें प्लीज। मंजू बहन, अगर आप तक हमारी आवाज पहुंच रही है तो अपने आप को अनम्यूट करें।
मंजू दीदी, आपका माइक।
मंजू बहन, आप म्यूट हैं। देखिए, आपको मोबाइल में नीचे माइक का एक बटन दिखेगा, उसको दबाइए तो आप अनम्यूट हो जाएंगी। मंजू बहन, मैंने आपको यहाँ से अनम्यूट करने की रिक्वेस्ट भेजी है, आपकी स्क्रीन पे आएगी, उस पे यस पे क्लिक कर दीजिएगा, अनम्यूट पे क्लिक कर दीजिएगा।
हो गया?
जी जी मंजू बहन।
जी जी, यस।
ओके, थैंक यू। सामान्य झील कर हैरिस बहन, जो कि अंतरराष्ट्रीय स्तर पर महिलाओं को लगातार आगे ले जाने का काम कर रही है। कनाडा से रीवा बहन, अनुज भाई और उपस्थित और अन्य बहन भी होंगे जो कनाडा से अन्य जगह से होंगे, और सभी उपस्थित हमारे एकता परिषद के वरिष्ठ साथियों और सभी साथीगण, आप सभी का मैं हार्दिक अभिनंदन करती हूँ। मैं बिहार राज्य में मुसहर दलित और वंचित वर्ग के बारे में बात कर रही हूँ। मुसहर भूमिहीन लोग हैं
ये लोग मजदूरी कर अपना आजीविका चलाते हैं। ये लोग काम के लिए बाहर गए अपना राज्य से दूसरे जगह से, और लौटे तो अपने साथ बीमारी को भी साथ लेकर आए। इस वैश्विक महामारी के क्रम में मैंने अभी तक पटना और दानापुर आसपास के करीब 3,500 परिवार से मिला, जिसमें महिला ये और जो घरेलू काम से जुड़ी हुई हैं, साफ सुथरा से लेकर अनेक तरह के छोटे बड़े काम करते हैं, दुकान वगैरह चलाते हैं। अब उन्हें काम पर आने के लिए मालिक लोग इजाजत नहीं देते हैं, क्योंकि बीमारी तो है ही, लेकिन आज काम अब लोग भय भी है और भूख की भी समस्या से लोग काफी परेशान हैं। ज्यादा बीमारी की हालत में उन्हें हॉस्पिटल तक वॉलेंटियर पहुंचा रहे हैं एवं स्थानीय स्तर पर जो कि काढ़ा और गर्म पानी, दूध, हल्दी इत्यादि का सेवन करके लोग चल रहे हैं। अभी तक बिहार झारखंड के लगभग 10 जिला तक वॉलेंटियर के सहयोग से पहुंच बनाने का काम किया है। और अभी खास करके हम लोग देखेंगे तो अभी प्रवासी मजदूर लगभग 2,530, विडोज और सिंगल का बात करेंगे तो 1,280, 1,780 लोग टोटल, वृद्ध दिव्यांग 1,340 और ट्रांसजेंडर 45। कुल मिलाकर हमारे पास में बिहार झारखंड 5,695 ऐसे परिवार हैं जिनके पास तत्काल खाने के लिए भोजन, जैसे सूखा हो या चावल दाल जो भी मिले, बच्चों के लिए बिस्कुट, मास्क, सैनिटाइजर, सेटामोल, थर्मामीटर, ऑक्सीमीटर इत्यादि अगर हो तो कुछ अच्छा ये हो सकता है। और इनके भी जो कार्यकर्ता वॉलेंटियर है, जाने के लिए भी काफी दिक्कत है। अगर तो व्यवस्था हो तो हम लोग एक टीम के रूप में उसको काम कर सकते हैं, पीड़ितों तक पहुंच बना सकते हैं। और इनके बीच जो भय है, आशंकाएं हैं, और मेडिकल सुविधा, जो भी सुविधा है, इन्हें हम लोग जागरूक और साहस और हिम्मत बढ़ाकर उनको एक आत्मबल देकर एक सामान्य स्थिति में लाने के लिए काम कर सकते हैं। इस तरह से मैं उम्मीद और आशा के साथ में आप सभी अंतरराष्ट्रीय भाई बहनों के बीच में बात को रख करके मैं इतना ही बात में समाप्त करती हूँ। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू मंजू बहन। गेरी भाई।
थैंक यू मंजू बहन, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। Friends, Manju Bahan started by greeting all of you who have joined from around the world to support the rural communities of India. Musahas are the landless people and who largely depend on manual labor for their livelihood. Manual labor basically means unskilled labor, day-based labor, which is not fixed. One day you may have work, the second day you may have no work, and you may in many cases go hungry. So while this lockdown happened in India, while people migrated back from cities to back to their villages, what also migrated back along with them was the disease of COVID-19. Manju shares that we have been working with over 3,500 people in total, and what we notice is that due to COVID, these communities have no work, and there are two big reasons behind this. One being that there is no business anymore at the local level. Two being the fear of COVID, because of which people are not hiring local resources. Manju also shared that we are also trying to reach 5,000 families who need support for food and basic health establishment at village level, which includes oximeters, thermometers, nutritional kits, dry ration, and so on. But what is barring us is the great problem of stocking this and getting the resources for reaching all these 5,000 people, and also, of course, the problem of commuting, because the villages are at large distances. There are no roads. Private and public transportation is not working. So all your support that can come in to help this community in these very, very hard times is most welcome. We look towards your generous support. Thank you very much. श्रद्धा बहन, आप
Shraddha Ben?
श्रद्धा बहन, आपका माइक म्यूट है.
And Shraddha Ben?
There seems to be a network problem with श्रद्धा बहन.
जी जी जी
जी श्रद्धा बहन, बोलिए.
जी मैं ये जानना चाहती हूँ, कस्तूरी बहन है क्या हमारे बीच?
जी जी है.
हाँ, तो थैंक यू मंजू बहन. कस्तूरी बहन को मैं आमंत्रित करती हूँ. कस्तूरी बहन मध्य प्रदेश के उत्तर बुंदेलखंड बघेलखंड का जो उत्तर भारत का एरिया है, उत्तर प्रदेश से जुड़ा हुआ है. और कस्तूरी बहन काफी एक्सपीरियंस पर्सन है, जो चीन ब्रिजिंग के वर्ल्ड वुमेन सेमिनार में भी अटेंड किया है उन्होंने. और दलित बेल्ट में काम कर रही है, जो कि लैंडलेस परिवार है, माइग्रेट एरिया में काम कर रही है. तो मैं उनसे आग्रह करती हूँ कि वो अपनी बात को कहेंगे महिलाओं के संदर्भ में. अभी हमारे दिन में वो क्या करने वाले हैं कोविड-19 को लेकर. कस्तूरी बहन.
So, friends, we will now hear from Kasturi Behan. Kasturi Behan, as I showed you on the map, worked in the Bundelkhand region. I'll again highlight it for you to understand it better. She works in the Bundelkhand region, which coincides between Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, as you see on your screen. And she basically works with the Dalits. The Dalits are known as the backward class in India. The Dalits and landless laborers. So now we shall hear from Kasturi Behan about her experiences and how is the combating with COVID going on.
मैं सभी साथियों से जय जगत, और झील बहन से भी जय जगत, राजा जी और हमारी रेवा बहन मीटिंग में जुड़ी हूँ, सभी से जय जगत कर रही हूँ और अपनी शुरुआत कर रही हूँ. साथियों, बुंदेलखंड बघेलखंड क्षेत्र में दलित समुदाय के लोग बड़े पैमाने पे हैं, और इन समूहों का राजा महाराजों के जमाने से इनका शोषण होते चला आ रहा है. अभी भी उच्च समाज के लोग भी उनका बड़े पैमाने पे शोषण करते हैं. उनकी बड़े पैमाने पे जमीनें छिन गई हैं. जो छोटा छोटा उनके हाथ में जो जमीन है, वो उसी से अपना खेती वेती का काम करते हैं, भरण पोषण का काम करते हैं. जब उससे उनका काम नहीं चलता, तो वो बड़े पैमाने पे बुंदेलखंड बघेलखंड से पलायन करके दिल्ली है, बम्बई है, गुजरात है, जो बड़े बड़े शहर हैं, वहां चले जाते हैं काम की तलाश में. अभी ये कोविड महामारी में बड़े पैमाने पे लोग वापस आए हैं, घर वापस आए हैं और बीमारियों से जूझ रहे हैं. वायरल बुखार चढ़ रही है लोगों को, किसी को कोरोना हो गया है, उनके हाथ में कुछ खाने के लिए नहीं है, वो भुखमरी की कगार पे खड़े हैं. जहाँ काम करने गए तो वहां भी कुछ नहीं मिला. कुछ लोग पैदल चल के भी अपने घर वापस आए हैं, यहाँ भी कुछ काम नहीं है उन लोगों को, और वैसे ही महामारी के चपेट में है. कुछ लोग अस्पतालों में हैं, कुछ लोग घर में बुखार में पीड़ित हैं. तो ये महामारी में लोग बहुत संकट का सामना कर रहे हैं, बहुत संकट में लोग हैं, और इनका कभी न्याय नहीं मिला. ये राजों की गुलामी से हमेशा ही गुलाम रहे हैं, और अभी भी इनको कोई न्याय नहीं मिलता. अछूत के नाम से लोग इनको भगा देते हैं कि तुम तो दलित हो, कहीं कुछ कर रहे हैं. सब बहुत सारा अपमान लोग करते हैं, अभी भी उनको कोई ऐसा न्याय नहीं मिलता. तो हम लोग मिलके मध्य प्रदेश, हम लोग पूरे बुंदेलखंड बघेलखंड के जो लोग हैं, अभी हम लोग 13 जिला 21 ब्लॉक में पूरा काम के लिए सोचे हैं कि सरकार के साथ संगठन और हमारे जो लोग हैं उनके साथ मिलके किस तरीके से ये महामारी से हम लोग निपट सकें और मिलके काम करें, जिसमें से बहुत अच्छा काम होगा और लोगों को राहत मिलेगी। तो और एक तो लोगों के पास अभी तत्काल कुछ ऐसा खाने के लिए भी व्यवस्था नहीं है। अगर कुछ अपना कुछ जुटाते भी हैं तो लॉकडाउन के चलते वो लेने के लिए कहीं मिल ही नहीं रहा। कहीं पुलिस परेशान कर रही, कहीं कुछ परेशान कर, लोग एक भुखमरी की कगार पे खड़े हैं। एक तो वापस आए, वहाँ भी कुछ नहीं मिला उनको, यहाँ भी कुछ काम भी नहीं मिल रहा है। सब अपने-अपने घरों में बैठे हैं, पीड़ित हैं, बीमार हैं। तो मैं तो ये कहूँगी कि हमारी टीम से कि हम मिलके यूरोप के साथ ही, भारत के साथ ही मिलके कैसे ये महामारी से हम लोग निपट सकें, सरकार के साथ और जितने स्वास्थ्य कर्मी हैं, स्वास्थ्य विभाग के साथ, सामाजिक क्षेत्र के लोग, स्वास्थ्य विभाग के लोग मिलके हम लोग एक अच्छा काम कर सकें और ये महामारी से निपट सकें। तो मैं अभी अपनी बात यहीं समाप्त करती हूँ। जय जगत।
जय जगत।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कस्तूरी बहन। Friends, Kasturi Behan, as I told you, predominantly works in the Bagelkhand and Bundelkhand region of Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. Now, these regions have a history of being ruled by princely, the princely states. As a result of which, the communities which come from the backward classes have been exploited to unexplainable levels. One such small example is the rampant spread of land grabbing. Due to non-availability of land and whatever land they have, the situation of drought year after year, this community is forced to migrate to the cities. Now, when the lockdown happened, people have now returned to home. Many of them have returned with the disease along with it. Now they have come with no payments. They were not made any payments when they were coming back home. So now they struggle for food and they struggle for treatment services. They struggle for day-to-day expenses. So Kasturi shares that we are trying to increase our outreach to 13 districts and 21 blocks in the Baghelkhand, Bundelkhand region, where primarily what we are trying to do is to network with the government and to work at community level to to look for ways for people to reach services. But what is needed urgently, where you all come into the picture, is to help us provide food to these families who do not have any money with them. We need your help in establishing basic health services at the village level. We also need your help in helping these community help themselves by becoming self-reliant at the community level. So in the due course, when we receive your support, we will try to work more closely with these communities and keep on updating you. Thank you very much.
थैंक यू कस्तूरी। थैंक यू कस्तूरी बहन।
ठीक है दीदी।
हाँ, अगले श्रृंखला में मैं मध्य प्रदेश का ही एक बड़ा हिस्सा है, चंबल का हिस्सा जो राजस्थान से जुड़ा हुआ है। वहाँ सहरिया कम्युनिटी है जो काफी गरीब है, पुअर है। उनके बीच में शबनम अफगानी काम कर रही हैं, तो मैं उनसे निवेदन करती हूँ कि शबनम बहन वहाँ के संदर्भ में अपनी बात को कहेंगे कि हम अभी क्या कर रहे हैं और आने वाले दिनों में क्या करने की तैयारी है हमारी। शबनम बहन। हेलो।
हाँ, जय जगत सभी को। आदरणीय मंच, मेरे को महिला मंच पे आज अपने अनुभवों को साझा करने का मौका मिला है। मैं अपने चंबल क्षेत्र की सभी महिलाओं की ओर से धन्यवाद करती हूँ कि आज यहाँ पर मुझे अपनी बात को कहने का मौका मिल रहा है, वो खासकर ऐसे मंच पर जहाँ पर हम एक सोच बना रहे हैं कोरोना महामारी के बीच में। तो अभी तक के हम लोगों के अनुभव मैं आप लोगों के साथ साझा करना चाहूंगी, जिसमें अभी एकता परिषद के साथ में हम 100% अपने हमारे यहाँ पर चंबल क्षेत्र के शोपुर उसमें अगर हम देखें तो अभी शासन के साथ हम लोग जो मिलकर काम कर रहे हैं यहाँ पर, वो उसमें बढ़ चढ़ के महिलाओं ने जो भाग लिया है। अभी किल कोरोना अभियान के माध्यम से समुदाय तक हम लोग पहुंच बना रहे हैं, जिसमें महिलाओं के साथ में स्वास्थ्य चेकअप किया जा रहा है, दवाइयाँ दी जा रही हैं, उनको गंभीर रूप से बीमारों को जिला अस्पताल तक भेजा जा रहा है, पॉजिटिव मरीजों को आइसोलेशन केंद्र में भी भेजा जा रहा है। हमारी यहाँ पर प्रत्येक टीम बनाई हुई है, उस प्रत्येक ब्लॉक में टीम बनी हुई है। तो टीम के लिए हम लोगों ने अभी 20 दिन के लिए वाहन उपलब्ध करवाया है। उस वाहन में हम लोगों ने सैनिटाइजर, मास्क, साबुन, पीने के लिए पानी आदि का उपलब्धता दी है। इन सब की उपलब्धता को सुनिश्चित करने के लिए शासन है सबसे बड़ा पार्ट आया है इसमें, कि शासन जानता है कि एकता परिषद हमारा समुदाय से जुड़ा हुआ है और समुदाय से मिलकर काम करता है, और समुदाय को समझाने में समुदाय बात मानता है, इसमें बहुत बड़ी भूमिका निकल के आ रही है। अभी गांव-गांव में अगर हम देखेंगे तो हमारे पुरुष साथी, महिला साथियों ने बहुत बढ़ चढ़ के भाग दिया है। ग्रामीण जनों को वो कोरोना टीका लगवा रही हैं, वैक्सीनेशन लगवा रही हैं, मास्क, सैनिटाइजर का प्रयोग बता रही हैं, सोशल डिस्टेंस का वो पालन करवा रही हैं। तो ये चीजें अभी हम लोगों को देखने में मिल रही हैं कि हमारा समुदाय किस तरह से बढ़ चढ़कर भाग ले रहा है। वो भाग नहीं रहा है इन चीजों से, लेकिन वो शासन के साथ लगातार जुड़ा हुआ है, जबकि वो भी कहीं ना कहीं पलायन से आया है, कहीं ना कहीं दूर दराज से आया है, जबकि उसके पास अभी रोजगार भी नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी वो कह रहा है कि इस महामारी में हम आपके साथ लगातार खड़े रहेंगे। और शासन ने एकता परिषद से स्पष्ट मांग किया है कि आप हमारा साथ दें, आप हमारे संग चलें। तो इसीलिए श्योपुर जिले में अभी देखा है, चंबल क्षेत्र में जो हम काम कर रहे हैं, शासन के साथ लगातार हम लोग मिलकर काम कर रहे हैं। प्रत्येक पंचायत पर हम लोग ऑक्सीमीटर, थर्मामीटर, भाप केंद्र सुविधा शासन के साथ में समन्वय बनाने का हम काम कर रहे हैं। पूरी टीम को भी हम लोगों ने भी आवश्यक कोविड सामग्री उपलब्ध करवाई है। इसके दौरान अगर हम देखें तो अगर हम आवश्यकता की हम बात करते हैं, तो अभी आवश्यकता में सबसे बड़ा जो पार्ट आ रहा है, अगर कोरोना के बाद हम देखते हैं तो पोषण का देखने को मिलेगा कि श्योपुर हमारा चंबल क्षेत्र वैसे ही पोषण के स्तर पे हम लोग देखा जाए तो पहले से ही कमजोर था, और अभी इसका बच्चों पर और महिलाओं पर काफी प्रभाव पड़ने वाला है। तो इसलिए अगर अपना आवश्यकता की जहाँ बात बढ़ती है हमारी महिलाओं के लिए, धात्री महिला, गर्भवती महिला, 6 से 22 माह तक के बच्चों के लिए हम लोगों को पोषण आहार की आवश्यकता है। बड़े स्तर पर हम लोगों को मास्क की आवश्यकता है। अभी बच्चों के लिए पूरक आहार की व्यवस्था है। गांव स्तर पर हम लोग रसोई बना सकें, ताकि उसमें जहाँ कोरोना मरीज निकल रहा है उनके लिए, उन पेशेंट्स के लिए हम उस महिलाएं हमारी वहाँ काम करें, उनके माध्यम से ही हम लोग भोजन व्यवस्था भी वहाँ करवा सकें। निःशुल्क हम लोग मास्क दें, साबुन किट वगैरह भी दे सकते हैं। सभी महिलाओं को अभी जब यहाँ देखने को मिल रहा है, श्योपुर में ज्यादातर अनुभव के तौर पर निकल कर आ रहा है कि अभी यहाँ पर वाहन की बहुत आवश्यकता है। महिलाओं को ले जाने में, लाने में भी दिक्कत हो रही है। गर्भवती महिला है तो उसको हॉस्पिटल तक ले जाने में दिक्कत हो रही है, तो इसके लिए एम्बुलेंस की अभी उपलब्धता चाहिए। क्वारंटाइन सेंटर हैं, पर पंचायत स्तर पर क्वारंटाइन सेंटरों के लिए अभी हम लोग शासन के साथ में समन्वय मिलकर काम कर रहे हैं। इसलिए वहाँ पर बेड शीट का होना, पलंग का होना, सैनिटाइजर किट का होना साफ सफाई के लिए, तो ये सब चीजों की भी वहाँ बड़ी लार्ज स्तर पर यहाँ पर आवश्यकता निकल कर आ रही है। हम एकता मंच से जब बात कर रहे हैं, महिला मंच से, तो ये चीजों का उपलब्धता यहाँ पर सुनिश्चित हो, इसकी हम लोग आशा करते हैं। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू शबनम।
Friends, Shabnam basically works in the Chambal region of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, which I already showed you on the map. Now, this region is typically known for the habitation of the Saharia group. Saharia is one of the top priority groups of the government of India and has been notified as the particularly vulnerable tribal group. This is one of the most poverty-struck community, not only in Madhya Pradesh but all over India. Now, Shabnam brings with her some experiences where under the Kill Corona campaign, which has been launched by the government of Madhya Pradesh, there have been some success stories where the government has been working in very close collaboration with Ekta Parishad and focusing on women through helping them outreach checkup, helping women reach our isolation centers, providing them medicines, masks, sanitizers, and so on. One of the success that Ekta Parishad I may say one of the advantages that Ekta Parishad has in this region is that due to its network and long presence in this area, Ekta Parishad is almost at household level, and this is very well known by the government, and they are approaching Ekta Parishad for support and outreach to the community. Now, during this COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown, what we see as a rising trend is a threat to the nutrition of especially pregnant and lactating mothers, as well as children who are under 22 months of age. So what we essentially need right now is to look for ways of how can nutrition reach this population and the child mortality and the maternal mortality uh, be arrested, because this region, if you check on the internet, you will find is known for its infant mortality rate and mother mortality rate. What we also need support for is basically the isolation centers. The isolation center is one place within the village or within the block or within the district where patients who are not very serious but mild and moderate can be kept away from their families so that they can recover and not transmit the virus. So this is one very urgent need we need right now, because as you know, Indian villages have very small houses. It's not possible for people to live in the same house and have two different rooms. So people need place to stay and recover. So that is what has been shared by Shabnam Band. Thank you very much, friends.
I'm going to break in now because I think we're running a little bit late. What I'd like to do is turn it over to Jill for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll have one quick musical piece during which we'll look at some of the questions that have come in, and if there are other questions, we will bring those. There are a few other people who do have information to share, so if we have more time, we will do that after. So with that, Jill, let me turn it to you.
Thank you. Jai Jagat. Sab logo ko. Yeah.
Jai Jagat, Jai Jagat.
Jai Jagat. Jai Jagat. Thank you to the speakers for these excellent presentations. You know, so many of these women, Shraddha, Shobhaben, Manjuben, Kasturi, Shabnam, I've had the privilege to work with for quite a long time, and they really have demonstrated so much leadership in villages. And this is why we wanted to bring them to your attention today. I think what they do is provide us with a worm's eye view of the situation. And through the media, we tend to get bird's eye view. So it's really wonderful to get their view. As they have spoken about the women frontline workers and how with the right inputs they can support the community in better ways, I think calls us all to action. This is a call to action. And what is so amazing is that in the last 3 weeks, so many people have come together in this campaign to get the word out. And as has been said by Reva Ben and Anuj Bai, $42,143 has been raised. And this is all by word of mouth, and this is all done by individuals like those listening today or being part of this webinar today and many others. About 200 plus small donors. So I think what we draw out of today is that when we come together, small contributions can make an impact. And I believe that these women and the constituencies that we're talking about today can really benefit from our coming together and making that small contribution. Today, we have enough money for 25 districts. Ekta Parishad, as Rajaji has said, Rajgopal has said, works in 72 districts. So I'm hoping all of us can think about mobilizing friends and family to contribute to this fund through IGINP and through the various Gandhian organizations. So please stay with us, be in solidarity, and let us see if rather than just investing in health and medical, we can also invest in people and see some change in this pandemic crisis in India. Thank you very much, and Jai Jagat to all.
Thank you, Jill. Janmajay, do we have one musical piece that you can play? Thank you so much, Janmajay. I wanted to start with some of the questions now, I think, and the first one that came in was from our friends from Switzerland about how many people we're trying to reach through this campaign. I'm just as a starting point, let me say, as Jill said, with the 42,000 we have now, what we have is about 1 lakh, that's 100,000 rupees per district for 25 districts. What we have been talking about is the 72 districts in which Ekta Parishad is working. But I wonder if I could call on, is Ran Singh Ji here with us? If he might want to say a little bit more about that work, or maybe Rajaji, if one of you would like to.
Ramesh Bhai is there.
Okay, Ramesh Bhai.
Call on Ramesh Bhai, yeah.
Okay, Ramesh Bhai, do you want to talk a little bit about that, about the work in the different districts and how that money might be used and how many people we might be reaching through those 72 districts?
Right, yeah, thank you. In 72 districts, I mean, first you have to know that these districts are from the different geocultural zones. Some are on the coastline, some are in the mountains, some areas which is in the desert area, some are like a very hard dry land area. And in these particular districts, out of the 72 districts, we are close to target to reach out to a kind of a 100,000 families. So, and that's exactly the number which actually we have reached out last year during the COVID relief operation. So largely we are focusing among those people who are like an indigenous community, from Dalit community, fisher folks, nomads, single women, etc. So close to 100,000 families. It's our larger focus in these 72 districts. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ramesh Bhai. Anuj Bhai, you were responding to some of the other questions earlier. Do you want to pick those up and perhaps get some of our friends from India to also enter into that conversation?
Sure. Joyita, I think, asked us, what is the level of infection we are seeing in the villages and how are we responding to it? So I was just saying that it's very hard to really pinpoint the actual data because it's really an emergent situation. In one area that we heard from Ran Singh Ji and directly in the yesterday's briefing meeting we had with him, is roughly 30% positivity rate, which is not very different from in the urban areas. But honestly, at this point in time, the pandemic is spreading so fast, and the testing is so difficult to know. We can't really pinpoint the exact numbers. So it's a very emergent situation. But we are, as one of the speakers said towards the end, we are also looking for creating isolation spaces within the village community so that people who are infected who may not be able to isolate within the home are able to do so safely. And in doing so, one of the big needs that has emerged is safety and security of the volunteers themselves. They themselves need to be safe to be able to create these spaces. So that is one of the big needs that are emerging. Thank you, Ruben.
Anuj Bhai, a bit of information about very difficult area like Manipur will be of interesting. because that is the border of Myanmar and India. Very difficult to reach, and then we are facing big challenge. So if Ramesh could throw some light on what is happening in Manipur.
Yeah. Thank you, Raji. So, friends, the Manipur, the 70% population of Manipur lives in 4 valley districts. And then the rest of the part is a kind of a mountains. And perhaps you know that this is the state which is known for a majority of indigenous population, the Nagas and Kukis and some other groups who live there. There is no road access. The highways are still under construction. You can imagine after 70 years that highways are still under the construction. There's no railway track. So you can only maximum to reach out by flight or maybe sometime by road in some non-traditional routes. So this particular state, there is a large number of cases. It's now coming. And the positivity rate is actually growing up to today. I heard in the news, it comes to nearly 38%, which is really shocking. And this is a very important place because the population density is very high. So here we have already identified 8 primary health centers. We have already kind of a few rounds of meetings with the health officials in these 8 primary health centers. Primarily, we are focusing the deficit area because there is a shortage in terms of generic medicines, precautionary medicines to give it to the people. In some places, there is a lack of medicine, especially after the post-vaccination cases. So we are helping the government to buy some medicines and to pull out in the government pool, and so that they can give it to the people. The second thing, which is a very problematic for Manipur, there's no industry. So you can imagine that in the coming days, when the number of COVID patients will increase, there will be certainly an issue of oxygen supplies. So here we are trying to buy some oxy concentrators so that at least we can give it to the primary health centers, maybe like 4 or 5 oxy concentrators to each primary health center, so that at least they can serve the people who actually needed the oxygen support. So, and perhaps the last thing which is very interesting for Manipur, the Manipur is a state which is known for a kind of a very strong women leadership. So this is the one state where definitely we need a lot of support in terms of machines, in terms of oximeter and oxy concentrators, maybe mask, maybe few medicines, maybe ambulance services, especially to reach out to the remote areas. Because we have some vehicles, but we need fuel, we need driver, or maybe we can get some money. If we have some money, probably we can hire some ambulance agency to provide the services, especially to the patients in the rural areas. So these are some very specific demands coming from the Manipur. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramesh Bhai. One of the questions that I've been asked actually on email just now is how the money is actually getting to the people who need it. And let me just start an answer and then invite Rajaji and Shraddha Ben perhaps to amplify it. What we are doing in collecting these funds is to use IGINP Canada and Dharma in Motion as 2 organizations that are in North America to send the money directly to the Mahatma Gandhi Seva Ashram, which is part of the Ekta Parishad network. And the money is going directly to all of these people that you are hearing from today and others like them who are working on the front lines. This is very different than something like a donation to the Red Cross, for example, where it would go to Red Cross India and then go through their networks. This is Frontline on the ground. So as soon as the money arrives, it is the people in the communities are able to use it. So I wonder, Rajaji or Shraddha-ben, if one of you would want to say a little bit more about that.
See, thank you, Reva Behan. See, once the money comes to Gandhi Ashram, in fact, Gandhi Ashram is our coordination point for all COVID-related activities. And then in each state, we have one organizational base, where the coordination takes place. For example, if it is Chhattisgarh, there is an organization called Prayog. If it is Bihar, we have another organization. So each organization takes responsibility because there are many volunteers, many activists in the field, and they all have demands. So once we get the money, we decide that what goes to different states, and the state coordination point will decide what need to be done on a day-to-day basis. But then there are many things which we can procure from one point. For example, now Ramesh is planning to buy medicine from one point and divide it into small kits and provide it to different states. Same thing with food material. So at some point, we buy things in bulk. In other places, each state decides what kind of expenditure they need. Vehicle is a big demand now. Vehicle, we can't provide vehicle, but then we can provide some rent for hiring vehicles. And so that is up to the state coordination to decide how many vehicles, which direction it should go, how many villages it should reach out. In some cases, we are also taking some new volunteers to work with us. So we have to take care of their food and other expenses. But that is only in places where we don't have enough volunteers. We hire new volunteers, people who are trained by us some years back and are not directly into activism, but as farmers, they can come into our fold to do the work now. So that is how the money get used. But all the accounts are finally collected by Gandhi Ashram. The report is made there, and we have to submit everything to the government. And we also need to submit it to the Charity Commission. So all that is being done by Gandhi Ashram. There is a very good team which has the capacity and experience to deal with finances and the accounts and reporting, etc. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Raja. I also just wanted to say, because sometimes on this end, there's a question about overhead. All of us who are collecting the funds on this end have made a commitment to paying the overhead costs out of separate funds that we have as organizations, or personally, we will cover them. So all of the money that is being collected in the name of this initiative will go directly to our colleagues, friends, family in India. I think there's just one last thing that I have here, one last question, and that is about whether there are differences in terms of the needs in the rural areas versus the urban areas. And I wonder if Ramesh Bhai, if you would like to respond to
Anish could take it.
Or Anish could take
because Anish is more into urban area. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Anish Bhai. So the difference between the needs in urban areas and rural areas.
Yeah. Thank you, Ravan. Yeah, it is, there is a difference. The thing is that in the last few years, we are trying to create a link in between urban and rural. So the urban people are totally ready to work for volunteer, and they are having many kind of skill, doctors, engineers, and multiple language, and they know well how part of education part. They are very very highly educated people, so they are really helping into the rural COVID situation, how they can do the relief activities together. It is also creating a real link in between urban and rural. So the mainly in the cities, we are really trying to take all these needs online, WhatsApp, all social media, through all this process. We are there are many requirements, availability of hospital. It's a kind of facilitation the urban people are doing. The need is mainly the transportation for ambulance and that kind of things, and sometimes urban hospital, they are highly paying, taking money from the rural people. We are trying to cross-checking them and trying to make a small concession on all those things. So that kind of things we are kind of again facilitation, and young people are really focusing on that to help rural people. So not much money request. We need more facility, and we may need some more kind of young people. We need a kind of a corona fellowship, something like that. They can at least survive their needs. That kind of part we are focusing, and apart from all that, they are really trying to creating a small kind of fundraising process. That also we need some kind of documents creation, videos, small cultural kind of traditional songs they are making in a good way to spread awareness campaign in the rural part. So partially they are volunteer, but partially they need a kind of support for the technical and other parts. That's all.
Thank you so much.
Can I just quickly, sorry, just to summarize what Anish, just to add, the rural areas in comparison to urban areas, one of the key things is how do we spread the word and create the trust between the people and the health system. That trust has been broken to a large extent. So Ekta Parishad is able to mobilize at large numbers and help the administration to reach them, and about vaccination, about medication, about testing, everything else. The second thing that is very different from urban area often is that isolation, is very difficult in rural areas. And so how do we create the home-based and community-based care? And the third is transportation. We don't have health infrastructure in many other villages. So how do we, those people who are becoming critical, how do we transport? So we have some vehicles, but probably the demand is very high. So either we hire them or we try to procure the new vehicles. And that's the kind of big challenge. And it's a very emergent situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Anujbai. We're coming up to the end of our time here. And so I want to just give Rajaji one more chance to say something to the whole group to let us know a little bit, maybe to give us some inspiration as we go forward.
I thought you want to give that last minute to Ran Singh Ji to say thank you to everyone, because he's the president of Ekta Parishad.
We're not quite at the last minute though, Rajaji. So you need to say something, and then we'll pass it over to Ran Singh Ji.
Right. So great. I think as I began initially, that it's very nice to see that all our friends are coming together. Ekta Parishad was building mass movement in India, but was also building solidarity groups across the world, across the globe. So this is very important for an organization that whenever there is a crisis in one country, others are able to reach out. Today it can be India, and tomorrow it can be some other country. But this possibility of humankind coming together to help each other at the time of crisis is a very interesting thing. And like Gandhi said, whenever we contemplate an action, think of the poorest and weakest. That is the lesson of Ekta Parishad, that for us, focusing on the poorest and weakest in the society is very important. And all the resources that we mobilize, that we mobilized all these years, and also that we are going to mobilize in coming years, will be really used for the weakest and poorest in the society. So I'm very happy about this partnership, and I hope we will get through this crisis and probably work towards building a better society in the coming years. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajaji. I don't know if Ran Singh Ji is actually here. Is he here?
No, Revaban, he's not there. He's not here.
Yeah. All right. So I don't think Ran Singh Ji is here. So in his stead, let me just say thank you to everybody. Thank you for all of your support so far. Thank you for being with us this morning in Canada, or in Western Canada, this afternoon in Eastern Canada, this evening in India. Thank you as well for continuing this work with us. Please do use your own platforms, your own networks to spread the word, because as Jill said, this has really been an initiative that has been people to people, and that is the way that it will continue. We have some amazing folks who have come and joined us as part of this work. And I want to just say thank you to everyone who was involved today, particularly to Shraddha Ben, Shobha Ben, Kasturi Ben, who am I missing?
Manjula.
Manju Ben, and
Shabnam.
and also to Anish Bhai, Ramesh Bhai, thank you, and Nirbhai Bhai, who didn't actually get to say anything, but who was here and waiting for us to call on him, but who is always there to help.
And Gary Bhai.
Oh yes, I'm coming to him. And I think in terms of what we talk about our backbone, our
Yes,
backbone.
two of them. Yeah.
In India is Gary Bhai and Janmajay. Our backbone in Canada is Annie and Salima. Thank you, all of you, for everything that you have done. Jill, I think last word goes to you.
Yeah, what can I say? I mean, this is amazing to have so many people today, so much concern, so much solidarity. And as bad as the Indian situation is, these moments give us hope that by connecting with people and working with people, we can overcome these difficulties. So thank you again. And Jai Jagat to everybody. Jai Jagat.
Jai Jagat. Thank you.
Jai Jagat. Jai Jagat. Jai Jagat. Jai Jagat.
अमित भाई, आप लोगों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Thank you.
आपको भी. आपको भी.